All right, welcome to another challenge. Let's get started. We're going to do simple array sum this time. And the question is simply given this number, which is the first line of the input, which in this case 6, and then it asks you to output what the sum of the next 6 numbers is. And you can see here it's going to be 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 10 plus 11, which is 31. So I know it does say to use an array and to sum an array, but we actually don't need an array, so I'm not going to use one. Anyways, let's just get started. So first, put our code into a class called solutions for HackerRank, and we need to create the entry point. So now we've created the entry point main. In order to read the number 6, we need the help of a scanner. So in order to get the scanner, we have to import java.util. And now we can do scanner, call it in, equal to new scanner, and that scanner is going to read things from the standard input, which is system in. So now if we do int n equals in.nextInt, in the case of the sample input, now n would hold the value 6. So our next step is to now read 6 numbers and have some sort of a sum to keep count of when we keep adding them up. So to do that, we're going to use a for loop. It's going to look something like this. If you've never seen a for loop before, I encourage you to go search it up, and I'll also do a quick explanation here. And you can see for loop basically has 3 parts, which is the initialization, some sort of condition, and then the post loop here. So what happens when the code runs is it looks at the initialization, which is I equals to 0, looks to the condition, which in our case is I less than n. So let's do an example. Let's say our n is 6, just like the sample input. 0 is less than 6, so this is true. So once this is true, it's going to run through this code, whatever this is, and at the very end, it's going to do something for the post loop. So what do we do after each loop? In this case, it's I plus plus, which just means increment I by 1. So before your I was 0, by the end of the loop, it's going to now become 1, and it's going to check again for the condition, is 1 less than 6? Yes, it is. So it's going to run through it again, and now it's going to be equal to 2, and so on, and so on. And what happens when you hit 5? So I becomes 5, so here, we're going to go there, I is now 5, we check that it's less than 6, which is true, and it goes down, comes here, and now I is equal to 6. So if we do this, it's going to become 6 less than 6, which is not a true statement. So since it's not a true statement, it's going to exit, and we're going to continue with our program here, with our other code. So you can see that in reality, it's going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So it's going to run 6 times, and when I equals 6, it's going to fail, and it's going to continue on. So this code right here is going to execute 6 times, which is good because we need to add 6 numbers together. So to add 6 numbers together, we need to somehow keep track of our sum at every single part. So if we do sum, we can do is equal to whatever the sum is before plus in next int. So on our first iteration, this next int, according to the sample input, is going to be 1. So it's going to be 0 plus 1 now equals 1. So sum is now 1. And the second time, now that sum is 1, it's going to go 1 plus, well, this time it's 2. So it's going to be 1 plus 2. So now sum is 3, and so on and so forth. We can make this a little bit simpler by doing sum plus equals in.nextInt. These two statements mean the same thing, or essentially they mean the same thing, and it just looks nicer, so I'm going to stick with this version instead. And now for the end, all we have to do is print the sum. So remember to print the sum, we tell our system output that we need to print a line, and in that line we want to have sum in it. All right, let's give this a go. Let's run it. And you can see that we've passed all the test cases, and I'm going to submit it. So I realized we didn't use an array, even though it's a simple array sum question, but I'm sure we'll use an array in the future and we can talk about it then.